All right, guys, welcome back to Stat Chat Sports. You're here for our weekly AFL podcast. Another familiar face doing the intro. We're real thin on the boys tonight. It's just me and BT. Josh in the Colts, I believe, this week. Two weeks in a row. But Tazza is down in the twos, not feeling well, so it's just the two of us today. But we'll make the most of it. We'll get through it. We don't need them, BT. We don't need them.
No, we don't.
We'll jump straight into the regular segment, our hits, misses, and the hold fire. I'll hit us off with the hit. We're going straight to Collingwood today. BT, I think they well and truly deserve that. 6 wins in a row for them. Gives them a nice firm grip in the top 8. I believe they're sitting 6th at the minute, 40 points. This had a real do or die vibe, sort of, for me between Gold Coast. Gold Coast is sort of fighting for their place in the 8, and Collingwood as well. Collingwood's final dreams are not Collingwood. Sorry, Gold Coast dreams may be dead, maybe, maybe up for discussion, but Collingwood are firmly in there. I know we're going a little bit off to Collingwood here, but just quickly on Gold Coast, do you think that's it for them?
I think it's going to be very hard now. I think, like you just touched on, that was a do or die game for Gold Coast. Not so much Collingwood. I think Collingwood, even if they lost that, they're still going to make finals. But I think it's going to be very hard now for Gold Coast. Unfortunately, I would have liked them to see them make it, but I don't think they're getting there now.
Yeah, I think many people would have wanted to see them in there, given the opportunity that presented themselves. But 6 wins in a row for Collingwood. Who would have thought that 6 weeks ago that they would be in this position?
All right, they're up there with these top teams now, and I would not be surprised if they finish equal second, top 4. I think they're
got them going that high.
Easily, yeah, they're probably the form, well, at least one of the form teams in the comp, and they've knocked off good teams. So they're not just being these easy teams. They've knocked off a Melbourne, they've knocked off a Fremantle. So they're looking very good. They are, and I can see them. It's going to come down to this percentage. I can see it with the top 2 and the top 4. It's going to be percentage, and Collingwood's right in there.
They've made a big miss for them. So Darcy Moore went down late in the 4th quarter with a knee injury. Obviously a key defender for them. I've read up just a hyperextended knee at this point. They'll need scans to confirm the injury. But if he's gone, or however long it is, depending on the intent of the injury, how big of a miss is that? That's pretty big.
Oh, he's probably easily top 5 defenders in the league. So I don't know to what effect. Is it going to be like a Stephen May effect? Is it going to shut the whole team down? I don't think so. I think they can work around it. Yeah. Just their play style. They're a pretty fast-moving team where, like in Melbourne, they like to set up behind the ball. So it's definitely going to affect them. It's whether they can go the other way and hopefully they can score enough to still beat these teams, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So you see them. You don't see it to be a potential, bump in the road for them for the finals.
I don't think so. I think their midfield and forward line's working well enough that that's going to get them over the line. I'm not saying they're going to make it really deep in finals because it all this injury may be only a few weeks and he could be back to fully fit for finals. And then obviously that's a major difference. But at this stage, I'm not sure on the extent of the injury, so I can't speculate really. He is a key player. Fullbacks, centre halfbacks, they're obviously up there with the most important players of every team. So I think they're good enough to still get wins without him.
Just quickly on their forward line as well, Collingwood aren't shy of getting goals from all around the ground, really. I mean, Jordan De Goey was back in here, but he didn't kick any. The majority of the goals coming from Josh Dacos and Ginnivan or Ginnivan, however you pronounce his name. One of those, I've got it right. But their forwards are not kicking the goals really at the moment. So could that come into a factor? Like, if some of these midfielders stop kicking goals, they're going to struggle to get goals if their forward line's not hitting the target.
Oh, definitely. They're a team that needs goals from their midfield, but that's not also it's not a bad thing. We're like a St Kilda, other than this week just gone, the last few weeks, they've been relying on Max Kim, really. That's it. So if you can get multiple goal scorers, it's probably works in your favour more. I think like a Myercheck and a Ginnivan and a Henry, and then you add in these midfielders if they can pop in, it's good enough. And then obviously, hopefully, the goalie can get back to a good form, and then that's them setting up a good run in finals.
BT, over to you for the miss. Where are we heading?
We're going with Sydney. I think any team that loses to Essendon deserves to be the miss. And far out, one of the stats here I've got on my notes, Essendon had 66 more uncontested and 19 more marks. So every other stat was pretty even. But as soon as they got the ball on the outside, Sydney didn't know what to do. And it was a back and forth game. You look at like I say, look at stats, it's pretty even. And I think it was 9-point margin in the end. And that was Essendon came home pretty strong. They kicked, I think, maybe 4 of the last 5, something like that. I don't know the exact amount, but Sydney, that's a game you got to win. If you want to play finals, you got to win that game. And that's just not good enough.
Are the wheels falling off at Essendon? I mean, you look at their sort of their form and the teams that they've lost against. They've got to be probably one of the most inconsistent teams that are in the 8 at the moment, for me personally. 4 out of their 6 losses, Bulldogs, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Carlton, Port Adelaide, and Essendon. 4 out of those 6 are all from teams below them and currently out of the 8 at the moment. I mean, like you just said, if you're in contention for a final spot, you should be beating these sort of teams.
Oh, for sure. And they're definitely not good enough to beat. If they make finals, I can't see them winning a final. So these other teams, they may scrape in that 8th spot, but they're not good enough. They're definitely not good enough. And we had them pretty high pre-season and we're clearly wrong.
I think we had them as a potential top 4 early days.
Yeah. But I think I like the team. We've touched on this quite a lot. They're a fairly young team. They've got a lot of like mid to low 20-year-olds. So like a lot of them. So in the next few years, when these guys are up to 100 games, 150 games, they got more of these type of players. They're going to be pretty hard to beat. They're going to be a top team. But right now, they're not. They're easily beatable. And I think most teams don't fear them, even if they're going to the SCG now. They don't look unbeatable there. So they're not winning a final.
So realistically, do you still see them making a final? Making the finals, should I say?
Bulldogs are starting to hit form. I think they're versing each other this week, I think, from memory. Port Adelaide, I know Port Adelaide just lost. There's 2 games out, but I think they're playing better than Sydney.
Yeah.
And
St Kilda are still there.
St Kilda's better than them. Richmond's better than them. They may scrape in, but I don't think so. I think these other teams are better.
It almost seems like their spot should just go to someone else if you don't think they're going to win a game in the finals anyway. Prefer to see someone else in there.
Yeah, exactly. And the Bulldogs or St Kilda or Richmond, these guys, they're good enough to be a top 4 team. They're not on form, they're not, but they can be, whereas Sydney isn't. Even at their best, then still not as good as these top 4 top teams. So these other teams will give a shot in the finals and give a good run, no matter who they verse. I can't see Sydney, though.
No, good stuff from you, mate. Our hold fire, typically we'd pass over to Tazza, but of course not here. He's gone with Carlton for the hold fire for this week. Obviously, they just took an L themselves. Do you agree with the call, BT?
I'm surprised. I agree with it, but I thought he would have gone his own mob in Port Adelaide. I thought he would have gone down that route, but I can see it's a hold fire. St Kilda, as bad as I bashed them all season and not a huge fan of that team, they played very well that game. I watched that whole game and they killed them, really. As soon their speed off halfback, they just kept running. Bradley Hill, Jack Sinclair, just killed them with their speed and hidden targets. So Carlton looked very slow, very, very slow they did. And Max King, we touched on it last week, Tazza did, that they were one-dimensional up forward with Max King. He played as the 4th tall this game. He was just a decoy. He hardly touched the ball in the first half. I think he kicked 2 quick goals and that was about it. They used Paddy Ryder, Marshall, Membry all these guys as the key forwards, and Max King was just playing more of like down the boundary type player. So they changed their game plan up forward, and it worked. But they're a team that can push that top 4 as well. They're good enough to push that top 4.
So just jumping back on course to Carlton, obviously still firmly in the 8. You know, at the minute they're not really in danger of dropping out of there too much. Can we just put this down as to maybe an off day for Carlton? I mean, Harry Mackay, Charlie Curnow, they're 2 main goal scorers, 3 goals combined. That's shit. That's not going to win you a game.
No, exactly. And that's the difference between them and one of these top teams. If like a Brisbane or Geelong or Melbourne, let's say Geelong, Hawkins or Cameron don't kick a goal, they still win games. They find a way to win, find a way to get these goals. Where a Carlton, they've got these stars in the midfield, forward, and defense, but they're not as good as of a team as like a Melbourne. They've probably got more stars than most teams in the comp, but they're not as good as an actual team that plays well together. If that makes sense. They've got stars, but they're not a team.
Yeah. And I mean, they've probably got to be the surprise package of that top 8. You've got to say, maybe between them and Fremantle, because I don't really think many people would have picked Carlton to be doing what they're doing at the moment. As it stands 5th, they're playing well, but I've just said that, they're not really at risk of missing out at the moment, but they've got a tough few fixtures coming up, out of the last remaining 6 or 7, whatever's left to go. Will they make it? Will they hold the 8 for you?
Yeah, they're definitely good enough. They're above that lot that may make that 8th, 7th, 8th spot. They're more of a top 4 team purely on these players they have. Like having those 2 forwards, Mackay and Curnow, it's very hard. It's going to be very hard to beat that team. You got to shut both of them down. So yeah, they're definitely making finals. I'll be very, very surprised if they don't. And it's whether they make that top 4. That's the question.
Okay, good stuff, Tazza. We appreciate you in spirit. That covers the review side from round 16. Let us know your thoughts below. Stay tuned for our preview on round 17. We'll see you in that one.